2023 NFL season. It is about to get underway. Hopefully this is coming out Wednesday or Thursday morning. So it's almost here, just a matter of hours away from the start of the NFL season. I got Jacob alongside me for this episode. Shawn, unfortunately, is not able to make it for the recording, but we do have his picks that we will enter into the caption, or we're getting his picks that will enter into the caption, so you can check those out. We'll also put ours in there so you can kind of compare a little bit easier rather than listening and then looking to see what he's got. So that is how we're going to do it this season. We apologize. Life's been crazy for all three of us, really, so it's kind of a mad scramble to even get this thing done. But Jacob is here. We are just going to, I think, buzz through this because last year was a pretty long episode. First of all, the results from last year. So the scoring we went ahead and went with was you got 3 points if you had the right team in the right spot for the division. So, for example, if you had the Bengals in first place, that was dead on, you get 3 points. But say you had the Bengals in second place, you're just one off, you would get just 1 point. So 3 for dead on, 1 point for one off. And then I gave 2 points if you had the right wild card team earning a wild card. I didn't give points if you had a wild card team and they ended up winning the division. So just you got those points if you got the wild card team right. I also did 5 points for the postseason awards. So if you got the defensive player of the year, the MVP, you got 5 points for each of those. So that is how it went. When it came down to conference championships and Super Bowl, Shawn and I were the only ones to have a team get to the conference championship that actually made it. And both of them we had losing and they lost anyway. So I didn't even give points out for that. It wouldn't have affected the final standings anyway. So final point totals from last year, I came in first place with 70. I'm not surprised. It was multiple divisions that I got dead on. The NFC South, which was just a slugfest, I got dead on with Tampa Bay, followed by Carolina, New Orleans, and Atlanta. Then the NFC West was a key one. I'll talk about that in just a second, actually. I had the AFC East dead on with the Bills winning, followed by the Dolphins getting a wild card as well, and then the Patriots and the Jets. And then finally, I got the AFC North 100% correct with the Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, and Browns. So 3 divisions spot on was a big difference in this one. And then I got 1 award correct. That was Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa. So those were where my points came in. Shawn finished in second as well. He missed just 1 on the NFC South. He did have the NFC North better than I did with the Vikings taking that division. He had the Packers in second. Wild cards did not help him out either in that race, and the NFC West, which was a big difference. A big difference between all three of us was that I had the 49ers ahead of the Cardinals, so I went ahead and snagged that extra point with the Niners finishing second. That was 1 off from their actual finish of first place, while both Shawn and Jacob had the Niners in third, which had them getting nothing, as well as the Cardinals getting nothing in that division. Shawn did also nail the AFC East with the Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, and Jets there. The AFC North, he was just 1 off. He had the Steelers at the bottom when it ended up being the Browns. He did nail the AFC West with the Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos, and he had the Chargers getting wild card, so he nailed that one as well. He also got 5 bonus points. He got Justin Jefferson as Offensive Player of the Year. That was his only bonus award. My Super Bowl prediction was the Bucs over the Bills. All 3 of us had Buffalo in the Super Bowl last season. Shawn had them beating the Rams in the Super Bowl. I was the only one who had them losing. I had them losing to the Bucs. That obviously didn't happen. And then coming in last was Jacob. He had 65 points. So again, I had 70. Shawn 66, Jacob 65. Jacob was very, very close. Again, the NFC South and NFC West kind of hurt him a little bit. Also in the NFC East, he had the Cowboys winning the division, which hurt bad as well. He only had 2 division winners correctly in his race, which gave him the opportunity to get more wild cards correct than Shawn or I did. Unfortunately, the wild cards didn't really hit home. He had a lot of writing on the Cardinals. He did nail the Dolphins in that wild card. His Super Bowl was the Bills over the Rams. That obviously didn't happen either. His 1 award, yes, we all got 1 award correct. He had Sauce Gardner as Defensive Rookie of the Year. So all of us nailing 1 award kind of nullified all that. So again, I finish in first place with 70 points, Shawn 66, Jacob 65. We'll see if that trend can continue. I'm not going to talk trash too much. I'm not going to talk trash. That's all in the past. We're on to Bill Belichick said we're on to Cincinnati. We're on to 2023, though, this season. So we are going to go ahead and buzz right through this. We're going to go ahead and start with the AFC North is where we're going to start for this year. I didn't really put them in any particular order. I know I did last year. This year, I just typed them out how I went. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and start. I have the Cincinnati Bengals winning the division. No surprise there. I mean, they're clearly the best team all around. I think their defense got a lot better last season, got some safety help over the top. So I think that they're going to take another step. It seems like Joe Mixon is going to be back in the fold. Also have some youth in the run game, and that receiving trio of Chase, Higgins, and Boyd is just still one of the best three-headed monsters in the game. And Joe Burrow, I think that calf's going to be just fine. Of course, we'll worry about the offensive line come playoff time. It seems like they're able to get there without it. Number 2 is where I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, every year I kind of look at a team who missed the playoffs the year before and who I think can make that jump. I didn't take the low-hanging fruit. We'll talk about that one later. I took the Steelers. I think as long as TJ Watt can stay healthy, which I know is a question mark, I think that this team can hang with anyone in the league. TJ Watt's pass rush, Cam Hayward is also an absolute stud, and the offense is better. You were all in on Kenny Pickett last year. George Pickens looked phenomenal. I'm still not sold on Najee Harris, but I think he's good enough to get this team a wild card. Number 3, I've got the Baltimore Ravens. I still am not high on the Ravens. I think they've still got way too many issues. Mainly, what's their running back situation going to be like? They have a lot of problems still there in the backfield other than Lamar Jackson. Still love Mark Andrews. Odell Beckham, I'm not even going to really worry about him. I think he's obviously not going to be 100%. He's not going to be that receiver he was, especially back in the New York Giants days. And the defense, I think, will be solid as always, but I just don't think it'll be enough to get back to the playoffs. I've got the Ravens just completely missing the playoffs this season. They're going to have to take some hard looks at their organization. And in 4th, I've got the Cleveland Browns. I think the Browns might be the best 4th-place team in the NFL.
That's fair.
Really good defense. The offense, I think, is going to be better with another year under Deshaun Watson. Personal issues aside, he is still a very solid quarterback. I think he got thrust into the equation with not much time to kind of knock the rust off. Nick Chubb will have to do more in the ground game with Kareem Hunt no longer in Cleveland, but I still love Amari Cooper. I expect a big year from David Njoku as well. So I think it's Bengals, followed by the Steelers getting a wild card, and then the Ravens and the Browns, Browns being the best last place team in the NFL.
All right. I like that Browns best last place team. I think that's pretty spot on. Although I think the Commanders might give them some money looking at my picks here.
Spoiler.
I think both of those teams. You don't have them in last place?
No, just a spoiler, you do. So
okay.
I don't want to give away I don't want to show my hand yet.
That's fair. Okay. I have the Bengals having it as well. This division was just a dogfight last year. Can't say a single bad thing about really any of their defenses. And it seems like every single one of them needs some offensive line help. Bengals have the best quarterback and best weapons by far, so they get first chair. I do see the Ravens actually in number 2 still in the last wild card spot from the Chargers. I think Lamar's going to be able to settle into what he needs to do without all of the added drama this year. Steelers are looking better than most people thought. Pickett and Pickens, great duo this year. I still need a little bit more on that offense for me to bet on them. Browns put a lot of stock into Watson. We'll see if it pays off. I seriously have my doubts. We'll see how it goes.
All right, you sped through that way quicker than I expected. So there's the AFC North side of things. We'll move on to the AFC West up next. The Kings of the Castle, the Kings of the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs. I've still got them as the top team. This one was easy. This one is a no-brainer. Patrick Mahomes, best player in the NFL, not just best quarterback. He is the best player in the NFL. Got the best wide receiver / tight end in the NFL in Travis Kelce.
Yep.
Question marks about the rest of the weapons. Of course, Juju is gone. He went to New England. It sounds like he might have some injury issues, which might be why Kansas City let him go. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. We'll talk about them here in just a bit. I do like this rushing attack. Isaiah Pacheco, as well as Jerick McKinnon, and then Kadarius Toney really took a big step up last season. I really like Sky Moore. I think he is dangerous in this offense. So I got the Chiefs number 1. I got the Chargers number 2 getting a wild card. I'm not a big Brandon Staley fan at all. I think he might be the worst head coach in the NFL, in my opinion. Just the way he has coached important games a couple years ago against the Raiders in Week 18 for a playoff spot. Last year against the Jags when they blew that wild card game. There's enough talent there, and that talent is getting old. Joey Bosa, he's not the same pass rusher that he once was when he came into the league. I'm more sold on Austin Eckler, although I don't think he's necessarily happy, which gives me some concern. Keenan Allen's getting up there in age. Mike Williams is a boom or bust kind of guy, so I'm not super high on them. I just think they'll be able to capitalize on a little bit of a weaker schedule and slide into second place and get that wild card. Number 3, I'm going to go ahead and take the Broncos to take a step forward and sit in number 3. Now, right now, they've got some injury issues at wide receiver. It can't get worse for Russell Wilson. It really cannot get any worse. I think they're going to be better coached this season. I think Javonte Williams has a year under his belt, so I really like him at tailback. And it's more so about the Raiders, who I have at number 4. Jimmy G, I think he's a guy who needs a running game that he can lean on. Josh Jacobs kind of gave his soul to the Raiders last season and still didn't get that big contract. I don't know if he can go through another year of just leading that offense. I think there could come a time where the Raiders are in a bad spot in the middle of the season, and you might see Devontae Adams traded to a different team, third team in the last 3 years. So I think it's more about my issues with the Raiders, especially still on the defensive side of the ball, than it is with, I think, the Broncos getting better. So I've got Chiefs win the division, Chargers getting a wild card, followed by the Broncos and then the Raiders.
Mine actually looks identical to yours. This was a division I thought would be much closer of a race last year, and it turned out Chiefs just stole it. And Chiefs are going to continue steamrolling really the rest of the NFL. Why wouldn't they? They didn't really lose any big pieces this year. They only seemed to improve. Herbert is, Chargers I got number 2. Herbert is doing his darndest to keep up with Mahomes as 1-2 in the division. He's doing better than most quarterbacks would at it. But still a lot of uncertainty. They're in LA. You mentioned, their running backs. How big of a deal is it that they're not really happy right now? It seems like a lot of running backs in the league aren't really happy right now, so we'll see how that all plays out. But Chargers did not live up to my expectations last year, and like you said, a lot of that really did seem to come down to the coaching, so we'll see if they can pick it up. I, too, have Broncos at 3. I think Russell does a lot better under Sean Payton, but there's still way too many question marks there on both sides of the ball that I don't see them doing much with it, we'll say. And then the Raiders, they are lacking really any serious playmaker on either side of the ball. Josh Jacobs, you said, was it. I mean, he really did everything he could to make the Raiders functional last year, and it did not work. And to be honest, I don't see that they really improved much at a quarterback. I think that Derek Carr always gets the blame when something is not right with that team, and they are needing more help than what Jimmy G can provide.
All right. We'll move into the AFC South since we're in total agreement for the first time on a division here with the AFC West. The AFC South, this is your bread and butter, Jacob. This is where you make your living. I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I don't really have it necessarily close. Not that I think the Jaguars are quite Super Bowl ready, but I think they're much closer than anyone else in that division is. And it's by a lot. Trevor Lawrence took a big step up last year. I really liked what I saw from him. Travis Etienne has a actual year of playing under his belt. Christian Kirk looked insane last year, and they're getting Calvin Ridley back from his gambling suspension this season. Evan Ingram had one of his better seasons. I just think this offense is very good. Question marks still surround the defense, but when it comes to the other teams in that division, defense is the least of your issues. If you can score, you're going to be in a pretty good place. Second place, I've got the Tennessee Titans. I'm not confident on the rest of this division at all. It could be topsy-turvy. I have no idea. Derrick Henry, of course, is starting to look like an aging running back. Ryan Tannehill looks like he's deteriorating. Not that there was much there to begin with, although I was higher on him than you were. Traylon Burks is their receiver. Okay. The reason I have them at 2 is Mike Vrabel knows how to coach a defense. He always has that defense ready to go. So I like that defense. I think they're going to perform. I'm going to give them a slight edge for second place. Sorry, Jacob. I've got the Houston Texans in 3rd, which means I got the Colts in 4th. The Texans, I loved the Texans draft. I am pulling for the Texans to turn this thing around, getting their quarterback, CJ Stroud, and then trading up to get probably the best all-around athlete in Will Anderson Jr. with the very next pick. I absolutely love the aggression. Now that they don't have too much to build around quite yet, but they at least have fun foundational pieces on both sides of the football. I like where they're heading. I'm not sold on Dameon Pierce like a lot of people are. Only time will tell there. And then I've got the Colts. I really wish they would have started Gardner Minshew for the year for multiple reasons. I don't think starting rookie quarterbacks right away is best for them. Also, of course, there's the drama with Jonathan Taylor after he was a massive letdown last season. I still think they have a pretty solid receiver in Michael Pittman. I think he's starting to win over the doubters who don't think he can be a true number one. The offensive line was atrocious last year. I got to see them do better. And the defense really wasn't anything special last year either to me. Anthony Richardson could get them all the way up to second place if he plays well, if Jonathan Taylor comes back, if that line gets back to how they looked a few years ago. Just too many question marks for me to have the Colts anywhere above definitely 3rd, but I'm going to go ahead and slide them into 4th. But again, 2 through 4, zero confidence.
Yeah, what an ugly division. I wish my team was semi-competent so we could just mop up, but they're not. And I think that's honestly what the Jags are shooting for. When you play this division 6 times a year, you're going to look semi-competent at worst. I'm still not sold on Trevor Lawrence. I saw a lot of mistakes go unpunished last year. But you know what? It's working out for them. Like you said, ETN, Ingram, honestly, they improved their defense from last year, so I'm really expecting them to coast at first place. Titans, they have some guys on their last legs of their career, but they're making things work, and like you said, they can coach defenses. I'm expecting them to get number 2. I do have Colts in 3rd place. Colts are looking to see some signs that Anthony Richardson is the future, and they will call that a win. You mentioned the offensive line, which was supposed to be one of the best last year, just terrible. And there was no warning that it was coming. Everyone was ranking better. And it wasn't happening. Now the defense, honestly, very competent defense, especially when you take into account that most of those were 2nd or 3rd string guys. They had a lot of injuries going on, but with those issues, a lot of guys coming back from injury, with the issues around Jonathan Taylor, I can't put them above 3rd place. Now the Texans are in a very similar boat as the Colts, but with less playmaking pieces and with less proven defensive capabilities. So I've got them coming in 4th there.
Again, just a big old foggy mess, I think, in the AFC South outside of the Jaguars, who, I mean, if you would have told me a couple years ago when they had Urban Meyer that they'd be in the best spot a year and a half later, I would have thought you were out of your mind. But here we are. Let's wrap up the AFC with, I think, the most interesting division in the AFC. That's the AFC East. Of course, a big new fish swimming into that pond. Aaron Rodgers joining the New York Jets. Already some big fish over there with Josh Allen. I've got the Jets winning this division. I do. I think that their defense last year showed that they were for real already. I think they might have gotten better. Of course, Adrian Amos coming over, helping solidify that safety position. But it comes down to Aaron Rodgers is going to be better than Zach Wilson. I mean, just straight up is they brought in Dalvin Cook, which is massive to replace Breece Hall till he's 100% ready. They're not rushing Breece Hall to get back as soon as possible. Garrett Wilson showed he was a one receiver last year. Sauce Gardner, I mean, you called it defensive player of the year. He was insane last year. That
Rookie.
defense is just filthy. And Aaron Rodgers doesn't turn the ball over, so they're not going to be giving teams extra possessions. I really think that this Jets team is going to have a great season. Number 2, I've got the Bills still getting a wild card, the top wild card in the AFC. Josh Allen cannot turn the ball over as much as he did last year. It was an absolute disaster. He has to be better in terms of the turnovers. Of course, they're going to be pretty motivated. Damar Hamlin's going to be back. That is going to be a sight to see all season long. Still don't think they have too much of a run game, really. They got to figure out something there, and Stephon Diggs isn't happy. So I think there's some issues with the Bills. I think there's too much talent for them to not succeed somewhat, but they got a ways to go if they want to, I think, get to that Super Bowl even, let alone win one. Third place, missing the playoffs, I've got the Dolphins. I just don't trust Tua to stay healthy. I think last year we saw countless times him go down with injuries, whether it be concussion. I know he's doing judo. He's judo Tua now. Guess what? That's not really going to help you when you're getting hit by massive defensive linemen and linebackers. So I still love their receiver duo of Hill and Waddle. I think they're very good. Question marks at running back still. Jalen Ramsey coming over, but he's already banged up. So I just think there's too many variables, too many things that could go wrong for the Dolphins. I've got them at 3. And number 4, the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick won't have this team being a laughingstock. I mean, Mac Jones was their only quarterback on the roster. They cut everyone else. Bailey Zappi, I mean, I thought he was the answer to their quarterback woes. Juju Smith-Schuster, his knee, doctors say, could blow up at any second after signing that 3-year deal with New England. That is very, very scary. They still don't want to commit to a running back, whether it be Zeke who came in or Ramondre Stevenson. They just can't really make up their minds, and I think the coaching staff is starting to show too many holes, show what Brady was actually providing for that team rather than it being the coaching staff helping Brady out. So I think it's going to be a really, really bad year for the Patriots. I've got them in 4. So Jets winning the division, Bills wild card, followed by the Dolphins, and then the Patriots.
That's actually spot on, again, with what I've got. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to lead the Jets to a division title, but I don't really know if he'll need to either. Like you kind of said, is he going to be better than what they had? Yes, 100%. And then all of that supporting staff, scary defense, solid weapons. If Rodgers can get around that porous offensive line, which is going to be a little bit of a struggle with his age and with what he was used to in Green Bay with a better offensive line, then this team looks very, very solid. So I do have Bills at number 2 as well, also having their offensive line issues, and a defense that has a lot of guys returning from injury. Hard to bet against Allen, though, even if we saw some clear mortal tendencies last year. So I still got them snagging, actually, the number 1 wild card as well. I do have Dolphins also getting a wild card. You nailed it. If Tua can stay healthy, can't bet against this Dolphins offense. I'm hoping that he does. He's a fun player to watch. He makes the NFL more fun to experience. So I'm really hoping he stays healthy. And then really, even without Tua last year, the Dolphins were not miserable. They did okay. I think that they are going to be just fine, just kind of as a wild card team in a very good division. And then the Pats are the odd man out. They're still just trying to figure out who they are post-Brady. I honestly don't know how long Belichick's going to be there. I think he's kind of getting tired of all of the just being lost. He never had to deal with that. I'm not saying that it was all Brady and no Belichick, but he never had to deal with post-Brady stuff that they're having to deal with on a yearly basis. Like you said, I had no idea that the starters that they're coming with were going to be the starters, at the end of last year. The quarterback situation, the running back situation, Um, yeah, like you said, you nailed it. They're not going to be embarrassing, but they're not going to have a good year.
So we are in total agreement on two of the divisions this season, I guess.
And only one off on the other two. That's pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully Shawn's got some differences. Otherwise, this is going to be a pretty boring episode, I guess. But yeah, it was. I thought I was taking a shot with the Jets. I thought for sure you'd pick the Bills, which is a little bit of a bummer. But I guess we'll go ahead and ride or die together with the
I was
New York
feeling
Jets.
The same exact way, so I thought that was going to be my my sleeper pick.
Try to get that extra little point in there. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hop into the NFC real quick, and then we will get into our playoffs and award predictions coming up here on the Kingsmen NFL Preview.
Alderson's Westprint Wares is your one stop to tell the world about your school, club, or business. For jackets, shirts, hats, and more, go to Awards Westprint Wares in Centralia. Awards Westprint Wares offers fast service of quality products, including screen printing and embroidery done on site. A wide variety of advertising specialties at great prices and delivered right to your door. For a full catalog, go online to aldersons.net. For maximum impact, Aldersons Awards Westprint Wares is ready to serve you today.
Good Health Nutrition Center in Centralia is your home base for nutrition. When you visit Good Health Nutrition Center, you'll find the largest selection of vitamins, supplements, and natural remedies. You may be surprised to also find a huge selection of healthy groceries such as gluten-free products, environmentally friendly products, organic fruits and vegetables, and items for specific diets like the diabetic diet. Good Health Nutrition Center, powering students and athletes from the inside out. Good Health Nutrition Center on Harrison in Centralia.
Welcome back to the Kingsmen Sports Podcast, our NFL preview episode. I am Matthew King, Jacob Sullivan, still here as well. We're going to be here all episodes, so I shouldn't even say still here, but I did, so we're just going to roll with it. All right, Jacob, you're going to kind of go ahead and take the reins in the NFC and go first. We're going to go ahead and start with the NFC, or I guess you pick where we start. I'm going to follow you this time.
Okay, you know what? Then I'll go top to bottom. We're going to start with the South. I don't mean top to bottom like most.
I was saying that's not how that works, but okay.
My notes, yeah, not saying the NFC South is gonna be the door breakers because
clarified.
Quite the opposite. NFC South still not a strong division, but so much better than they were last year. Saints have the most complete team and can really spread the ball around well. So I have Saints coming in at number 1 this year. I know you and Shawn looked at me crazy when I had them number 1 last year and just missed it, but it was a tighter race than I think really any of us thought. I'm going to go out and say it. Panthers have the best quarterback in the division already, but they also lost one of the best running backs in the league. So I'm very curious to see what they do this year. The way that they started last year, I am shocked at how well they ended up at the end of last year. So maybe they're figuring some things out. I do have them at number 2. Falcons, I have in third place, making strides in the right direction, but far from there. I'm very curious to see how that running back situation plays out. They've got a couple guys that are going to try to be stealing touches and touchdowns if everything goes according to plan. And then the Bucs are just going full scale backwards. They're going to need to rebuild. They're dealing with the post Brady that the Pats are, but even worse and even more imminently. So not too much going for them right now. Is Antonio Brown coming back, you think? That'll help?
I don't think Antonio Brown's coming back. I think Tom Brady has a better chance of coming back than Antonio Brown.
You know, that's fair.
I'd put money on that. All right. So the NFC South for me, which is actually at the bottom of the country, but that's where my mind went when you started at the top. I thought North, but
no,
we'll go with South. I've got the New Orleans Saints winning the division as well. Derek Carr, I think, answers some of the questions. I think he gives them more consistency at quarterback.
Very
Alvin
much
Kamara
so.
missing the first few weeks would be a bigger concern if they didn't get Jamal Williams, who was an absolute touchdown vulture with the Lions, and a very, very good backup back when DeAndre Swift was down last season.
And a very fun guy to
very
listen to.
fun.
One of my favorite post-game
I told you when
interviews.
he was in Green Bay, I loved him. I was so sad when he left. I understood the move. It broke my heart, though. So I do miss Jamal Williams. I still love Jamal Williams. Receiver, I am all in on Chris Olave. I thought he had a fantastic season last year. But what it comes down to is this defense is the only unit in this division that I trust. I don't trust any offense or defense other than the Saints. They're consistently one of the top. I think that's going to be the difference. I think that carries them to a division title. Number 2, I've got the Atlanta Falcons. I think they have a lot of weapons on this offense. I think Marcus Mariota clearly wasn't the guy for that offense last season, so I think that it can only get better. I think Desmond Ridder is a better fit, younger guy. Kyle Pitts, I still want to see more from him. I expected so much more, but then they also have Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. So I think that offense has enough weapons to put them above those bottom 2 teams. I still think they have a ton of question marks on defense. Eventually, they're going to have to address that. Third, I've got the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield era. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, though. They're kind of game changers for me. And then I think that defense is still can be very good if they can stay healthy. I liked what I saw from Baker with the Rams a couple of games, but still just too inconsistent from him. I've got the Bucs at 3. And then at 4, I've got the Panthers. I'm not as sold on Bryce Young as I think you are. Not that I'm a Bryce Young hater. I just need to just see a little bit of him. Talk to me in week 3 or 4, and I think I'll have my mind made up either way. It could go either way. But I really like some of the defensive pieces, the young defensive guys that the Panthers have. I've got too many questions about this team. There are a lot of young talent, new head coach. Kind of reminiscent of the Colts, although I like Bryce Young more than I like Anthony Richardson. But we'll see. I could be wrong about that. So you could convince me
pre-draft, so we'll see.
You could convince me the Panthers and Bucks flip their 3 and 4, but I've got the Saints as the lone playoff team winning the division, followed by the Falcons, Bucks, and then Panthers.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Now we'll go to the actual geographical top to the north. And this one's going to be fun because I have the Lions taking the division, and that hasn't happened in a while. They're not only making the playoffs again, they're winning the division. I like everything about this team. These young defenders seem to be coming into their own. Running back situation isn't as fun as it was last year. Still very, very solid. They've got the pieces where if that defense can hold opposing teams to under 30 points, that offense is just going to take off. And they did all last year, and we were almost drawing question marks like, how is this happening? But they spread the ball around just enough. They've got those playmakers, and they've got a coach that can make those plays work. I see them taking the division. Vikings had, I'm not even going to say a bit too much. They had way too much fourth quarter magic last year. They were like the Mariners winning those one-run games, one-score games, just always seeming to go their way. I don't think they're going to keep up quite as much of that luck. I still have them coming in at number 2. Packers, I have at number 3. They're going to need to find themselves a little bit. Jordan Love, I know he seems like a much better replacement for Aaron Rodgers than the Patriots or the Bucks have ever had for Brady. I'll say that much. But is he that next franchise quarterback? Packers were very lucky to transition from one directly to the other. I don't see it happen in a third time in a round, but we'll see how this year plays off. They still have plenty of pieces, that's for darn sure. And then the Bears, Justin Fields is improving, moving in the right direction. A lot of their pieces are on the offensive side of the ball, but that defense isn't going to do much for them. They're just not going to win too many games when they're giving up 40 points a game.
All right, so this is, of course, my division. This is the one I said.
And Shawn's.
And Shawn's, yeah, but Shawn's not here to defend himself. I'm glad Shawn's not here, though, because I've got the Vikings winning the division, and it kills me to say that. I think I'm all in on Alexander Madison. I think he's a sneaky fantasy game. I'm picking him up in every fantasy league I possibly can. I think he's going to be a very, very good running back. Justin Jefferson, best receiver in the league.
Yep.
With the quarterback he's got, I still give the edge to Devontae route running wise, but I think hands, nobody competes with Justin Jefferson. His hands are just absolutely insane. I still love TJ Hawkinson as an addition for the Vikings. That is a very good get. Question marks defensively, like we've seen the last few years with the Vikings, but in this division, I just look at them and I think they've got the most talent all the way around on offense. I think that offense is too good to not win the division. 2 in getting a wild card, I've got the Lions. Again, Jared Goff, I mean, everyone kind of laughed when the Lions traded for him. He's been pretty dang good with Detroit. Now, they did lose both running backs. DeAndre Swift is now in Philly, and of course, Jamal Williams, like we said, is in New Orleans. Jahmyr Gibbs, question marks on him, but I do like David Montgomery as a depth addition. I really think that was a smart pickup. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an absolute stud. I don't like their defense at all. I don't know how they're going to be able to stop anybody on defense. Aiden Hutchinson, yeah, he's great, but if you just throw in an extra chip blocker, how much can he really do? He's not a game wrecker like a TJ Watt or a Nick Bosa. So I've got the Lions at 2 and getting the last wild card. Number 3, I also have my Packers. You talked about Jordan Love being that next playmaker. I'm not so sure he's going to have to be. I think this is going to be reminiscent of the first year with Mac Jones, where it's going to be a run-heavy attack. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, that's still a very scary 1-2 punch, one of the best running back duos, if not the best in the league. Of course, I know Philly's got 18 running backs that are all very, very talented. So I'll just say one of the best running backs. A lot of young pieces on defense. Safety is a massive question mark with Adrian Amos gone. I don't trust Darnell Savage. Jair Alexander, I still think is one of the best corners in the league. They got to find a way to rush the passer. If Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell can work that middle linebacker like we've seen Devondre Campbell do in his all-pro year and how Quay Walker did at Georgia without getting ejected, if guys like Lucas Van Ness and Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, if those guys can start generating some pass rushes with Kenny Clark up the middle, I think this team could end up sneaking into a wild card. I just don't know yet. Still question marks at receivers, too much youth with a new quarterback. See how those guys merge together. So I'm going to go ahead and slot them at 3. And Bears at 4, just like you. I like Justin Fields. I was high on Justin Fields coming into that draft. I told everyone that is going to be the best quarterback, and my heart broke when the Bears got him. I like the DJ Moore addition. I think that's going to help Darnell Mooney. He doesn't have to be a number 1. Still, you're still seeing those mistakes, though, from Justin Fields. He's trying to force some throws, turning the ball over. That offensive line, I don't like in any way, shape, or form. I think that is a big, big issue. I think Fields runs for his life more often than not. I just think there's too many changes constantly. There's not enough just, one year after the other, this is how it is. There's not enough consistency. So I'm going to go ahead and slot the Bears in at 4. So I got Vikings winning the division, Lions as a wild card, Packers in 3rd, and then Bears in 4th.
I did forget to mention Vikings, I do have getting a wild card with their number 2. Now I'm curious, if Aaron Rodgers was still on the Packers with the way that the division's slotted, would you have them winning or still down below?
No, I'd still have them below the Vikings because I think that Aaron Rodgers puts the pressure on Matt LaFleur to throw the football more than he needs to. I think if they had Aaron Rodgers and they leaned on the run, I think this team could win a Super Bowl if the defense performs like they're supposed to be able to. But with this roster right now, I just don't see them being able to make that jump, even with Aaron Rodgers. Because what I will say, one more thing, I don't like talking about my team too much because I want to give equal love to everyone. We're going to learn a lot about Matt LaFleur this season.
Fair. Okay. We learned a lot about your last coach last year too, and we'll see how it goes this year.
I told y'all.
Speaking of, we're going to go to the NFC East.
Ooh,
see that was
transitions.
All right, so NFC East. I've got the Eagles taking it. I don't think there's too much of a question mark. Eagles made it to the Super Bowl last year. They're going to need to step some things up. I think that they made the moves they needed to address some of their issues. And if Jalen keeps playing anywhere near the level he has been, they're going to win plenty of games.
You mean rookie mode on Madden?
Yes. Yeah, just about. Yeah. Where he leads in both passing and rushing pretty much every game. So, and hopefully that's not the case this year. Not because Jalen's taken it down a notch, but because they actually have a running game, so to speak. I've got Cowboys coming in at number 2. I was a high on the Cowboys last year. I honestly think they've become a better team than what they were last year. That depth really scares me. I've got them at 2, but it is a very questionable 2 because Dak needs to stay healthy. Pollard needs to stay healthy. They have so many pieces that if one goes down, they're hurting. And so, knocking on wood, not the biggest of Cowboy fans, but I'm really hoping that team can stay healthy. And it's just a spooky defense. So we'll see how things go. I've got Giants coming in at 3. I think they're going to take a step back this year. It seemed like they were getting a little bit of luck too. Don't get me wrong. Having one of the most freakazoid running backs in the game definitely helps. There are just way too many question marks around this team. It all seemed to work out just as they needed it to last year. I don't think they're going to keep up with that. And then Commanders, it seemed like their greatest strength, their defense, never seemed to show up last year. I'm expecting more from them this year. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near where they need to be to keep up with the rest of the teams in this division. I've actually got 2 wild cards with the Cowboys and the Giants sneaking in. Commanders not quite there, still revving up at least. So in the next couple years, with a good quarterback, they'll be able to be a good team.
All right. So for the East, I've also got the Eagles as the top team. We're not the exact same, though, so don't worry. Just bear with me. I've got the Eagles number 1.
I know it's different.
I hope you do. I'm not that stupid. Jalen Hurts, again, he's a cheat code. He's an incredible quarterback, an incredible runner. I hope he stays healthy. I am concerned about that. If he takes a big shot, this team is in deep trouble. I like their defense, too. I think they've got the best defense in the division. The running back situation, I wish we had a little bit more clarity at running back because, again, they've got 18 of them, I swear. I love A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I think that's a dangerous 1-2 duo, and also Dallas Goedert at tight end. I just think almost everywhere this team is the best in the division, arguably the best in the NFC, except for maybe defense. I give the slight edge to San Fran, but they're dang close. They're extremely, extremely talented. Number 2, I've got the Giants. I bet you that's where you had the difference coming.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
I'm in on Daniel Jones. I kind of talked about it on the podcast. If you know me in real life, I've said I just don't know if I hate him or love him. All right, I'm in. I'm in on Daniel Jones. That playoff game with the Vikings won me over. Saquon Barkley, if he can stay healthy, he showed what he can do last year. He had a monster year last year. Sneaky good year. A lot of people were still kind of sleeping on him a little bit when it comes to fantasy football this season. I really like him. Receiver, they still need a little bit more help, but they had a Darren Waller. If Waller can stay healthy, that gives Daniel Jones a very nice target. The defense, I think, is good enough against some of these quarterbacks who are prone to making mistakes in this division. So I'm going to go ahead and slot the Giants in at 2, also to try and steal a point from you. Number 3, I've got the Dallas Cowboys, and I don't have them making the playoffs. I've got the Giants getting a wild card. Cowboys missing the playoffs. Mike McCarthy is just an issue with this team, and Kellen Moore is gone as well. I don't know how this offense is going to look. Tony Pollard stepping in at running back, okay. But they use that two-back system, I think, very well. Can Tony Pollard do it kind of by himself? CeeDee Lamb's a monster. Michael Gallup, I still think is a number 2. I don't buy Brandon Cooks necessarily. Not that I think he's a bad receiver. I just don't think
he helps with the deep ball.
Exactly. I just don't think he's as good as some people try to make him out to be. He's a deep threat. You nailed it right there in what you said. Defense, I get they're going to force some turnovers, but they're also going to get burnt a lot. It comes down to Dak Prescott. He makes mistakes. He turns the ball over. And Mike McCarthy, I just don't think he's a good coach. I don't think he can coach offense. I don't think he can coach defense. There's some serious flaws in his game plans. So I got the Cowboys sitting at 3. And 4, I've got the Commanders. I think the Commanders are kind of on the right step. They kind of have hit the reset button in their organization. Sam Howell, though, is a massive question mark. You know what you're getting from the other 3 quarterbacks in this division. You have no idea about Sam Howell. I'm tired of hearing about this Commander defense that is supposed to be so good, and yet they came out and looked awful last year. Terry McLaurin, he's a good receiver, but man, when you take him away, there's just not much there. Curtis Samuel is their number 2. Okay, it leaves a lot to be desired. And then that running back duo of Robinson and Gibson, I just don't see too much there. They're not game changers. Not that they're bad. Not that they're going to be, hurt the team more than they're helping the team. They're just not game changers. But it really comes down to Sam Howell. I just don't know. And this defense, until they actually show me something, I don't get why everyone's so high on this defense. They've never really done much. Chase Young had that year where he was really good. But other than that, they've left a lot to be desired. So I've got them at 4. So again, Eagles winning the division, Giants getting a wild card, followed by the Cowboys and then Commanders.
Okay. So I forget, did you already have all 3 wild cards used, or do you have one coming up in the West?
I got one left.
Okay, I don't. So I guess yes.
Okay.
Gonna hurt some feelings, I think. But let's go to the NFC West. 49ers coming in at number 1. 49ers had the worst injury luck I've seen in the NFL, and they still managed to dominate. Expect a revenge tour with extra reinforcements. I'm saying everyone is going to take a step up. I think they have one of the best players in the game at CMC. I think that they have one of the most sleeper picks in Brock Purdy. I think that Kittle, if he stays healthy, I think that defense is incredible. There's just too many pieces for this team. I think they're going to really eat everyone up when it comes to this division. Seahawks shocked the world last year. Geno really started to slip late in the year, and I don't know which Geno is going to stick around for 2023. Early season or late season Geno. I think that defense is a lot better than people give them credit for. I think we started to see a little bit of that last year. I think they're going to take it a step up this year. And they have one of the best wide receiver duos as well with Metcalf and Lockett. I don't think they're quite there. I think they're going to miss Penny this year. I really do. They miss Penny every year with him being hurt. So I guess we'll see if they step it up, but I do have them missing a wild card this year. I've got Rams in 3rd place. That was another shock to the entire sporting world, just how quickly they could fall apart. Matt's looking like he's not
can't make
a
friends.
Super Bowl. Yeah. What's that?
He can't make friends either, it sounds like.
Yeah. I'm hoping that everyone stays healthy for fantasy reasons, mostly. But I'm not thinking that they're going to do too much. I hope that Stafford comes back to form to keep things interesting. But I think that if they hit 500, they're going to be happy. And then Cardinals, they're without a quarterback for a little while. Their secondary is in absolute shambles. I can't name a playmaker. Watt,
Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, Hollywood Brown.
When he doesn't drop the ball.
I don't think that they're that good, as J.J. Watt said not that long ago. Uh,
Bad sign.
yeah.
All right. I will take the reins then. I've got the San Francisco 49ers also at 1. It's not really close. I think Brock Purdy coming back earlier than anticipated is big for them. I think they're going to look really good. George Kittle, I wish would take it a bit easy so he can try and stay on the field. But you got Debo, you got a good run game, and that defense is still the best defense in the NFL for my dollar. Just not many weak spots, and they're a team that's been there. I mean, Brock Purdy was
Jets
playing.
A slight edge, but they're still.
Give me the Niners. They've been there. They've done that. I think experience is the difference. Don't be a hater. I've got the Seahawks at 2 and getting a wild card. The reason I've got the Seahawks getting a wild card is because this division sucks. It really does. They get 4 games against the Rams and Cardinals. That's a pretty big deal. I think that'll add 4 wins to their record. So if you got them as a 6-win team, add 4 more, all of a sudden they're a 10-win team. So I think the Seahawks are going to be able to sneak in and get a wild card. I still don't think Geno Smith is, that game-changing quarterback like he kind of played last year. They got some good receivers still. Their running backs need to stay healthy. Got to see Kenneth Walker stay on the field. Zach Charbonnet, again, he was beat up at UCLA. I don't get what the Seahawks have with these beat-up, injury-prone running backs, but they somehow makes some sort of run game work. The defense, I think, is improving. I'll kind of talk about where they have flaws when I get into the playoffs, but I do have them getting a wild card. Number 3, I've got the Rams as well. Cooper Kupp coming back. How long will he be able to stay healthy? With that hamstring injury coming back from the ACL, there's just a lot of issues with me there with the Rams. Aaron Donald, I thought retired, but he's not retired, I guess. How much does he really have left? How much is he going to give this team? There's just too many issues for me. Sean McVay probably should have walked away after a flop of a Super Bowl parade around the league, I guess, last season. But I still got the Rams at 3 because the Cardinals are absolute garbage. They're terrible. James Conner, I think, is the best player on either side of the ball for the Cardinals. James Conner isn't that great of a running back. He's about middle of the pack for me. This team's a disaster. Good luck. Good luck taking them into anything. They're terrible. They're going to be terrible for a while. There's just all sorts of issues there. So I'm the exact same with you, except I've got the Seahawks getting a wild card. Let's all right. So before we dive into the playoffs, let's go through our playoff teams, and then we'll take one more break and then come back and wrap this one up. So from everything from the AFC, I've got the Bengals, Steelers, Chiefs, Chargers, Jags, Jets, and Bills. In the NFC, I've got the Vikings, Lions, 49ers, Seahawks, Saints, Eagles, and Giants.
Okay. I've got Chiefs, Jets, Bills, Bengals, Dolphins, Jags, and Ravens. And Niners, Eagles, Lions, Vikings, Cowboys, Saints, and Giants. There are a lot of playoff teams anymore.
Right. Well, talk about the baseball ones. It's even rougher. So that's going to do it for our division by division picks. We're going to go ahead and move on to the playoffs. We're going to give our awards and playoffs, but we're going to take one more break first, and then we'll come back and kind of wrap this thing up. So we'll get to that on the other side of this break on the Kingsmen Sports Podcast NFL Preview.
Thorbeck's Wellness Centers are the place to go for good health. At the 3 Thorbeck's locations in Centralia, Chehalis, and South Bend, there are options for everyone, and it's all for one low-price monthly membership. Get the basics with free weights and cardio, or take advantage of specific programs like yoga and group fitness classes, all for the same membership price. As a member, you'll have access to all 3 facilities where you'll find a swimming pool, basketball court, tennis courts, multi-use turf area, and more. For more information, go to Thorbex.com.
Welcome back to the Kingsmen Sports Podcast, our NFL preview. we're going to go awards and then playoffs, I think. I think that's what we did last year. If we didn't, we should have, because I like that more to end with the Super Bowl. So I can't quite remember how we played it last year, but that's what we're going to do this year. Let's get into first the coach of the year. I got Robert Saleh. I think he's kind of an easy choice. A bunch of new faces, and if he can get them to work, win the division like I have the Jets doing, that's a pretty big deal. So I'm going to take Saleh. I think he's built this defense up to what he wants to be. Remember, he was also kind of the head of the Niners defense that got to that Super Bowl. So I think he's a very good coach, obviously, already kind of turned the Jets around. Give him coach of the year.
Yeah, I was worried you'd say that as soon as you had the Jets winning the division, because I've got the same, actually. If the Jets get that division title, that is a complete 180 from when he took control of that team not that long ago. Like you said, he kind of built that defense. Ownership, general management gets a little bit of props. They're drafting, but drafting gets a lot easier if you don't have to draft a quarterback with your first pick every single year, like the Jets were doing for a while. So, props to Robert Saleh. Not too much to say about it. I think he's going to be the clear winner once we see what that team can do under his management.
All right, next up, I guess we'll move into the rookie of the years. We'll start with the offensive rookie of the year. I'm going to go ahead and take C.J. Stroud. I think he's going to end up being the best quarterback from this draft. I know I have the Texans third. Just wait. It'll get even crazier. I think he's going to put up some pretty good numbers. I think that the offensive rookie of the year race, I guess, is a little bit weaker than it has been in recent years. I think C.J. Stroud, I think he's going to be very smart with the football. I don't think he's going to turn the ball over, and he's going to stat pad against some of those AFC South teams that it's going to help him out a little bit. So give me C.J. Stroud.
Those AFC South teams aren't the best, but the defenses aren't just gimmies either. I've actually got Bryce Young. I really wanted to say Anthony Richardson so badly, but the Panthers have considerably better targets for the young to throw to. And he's going to get better stats and more wins because of it. At least mine is a second place team for me. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
I'm giving it to Young.
Well, I've got the Panthers in fourth, so they're not going to finish second. They'll probably finish third.
You said that you might change your tone after week 3, so we'll see.
I said check back with you. I might not change my tone. Defensive
the odds
rookie
might
of the year
change, so it's up to you.
I told you it's going to get crazier. Defensive rookie of the year, I've got C.J. Stroud's teammate. I've got Will Anderson Jr. winning defensive rookie of the year. I think the defensive rookie of the year class is very weak compared to where it's been in recent years. I think this guy's a freak athlete. I think the amount of tackles he'll have on his stat sheet are going to be insane when you look at the final stats. I think this guy flies around. I think he's going to, again, you want to talk about, okay, the defenses are all right. Well, the offensive lines in this division are also trash, in my opinion. So he's going to add some sacks in there as well. So I think they're going to double dip. The Texans are going to have offensive and defensive rookie of the year this season.
That would be impressive for a fourth place team, I'll tell you.
Third.
Well, for me, I mean. I'm saying, like, what's actually going to happen.
Yeah, you're wrong,
though. Because this defensive rookie of the year class is not as insane as the last few, this is where my dark horse sleeper pick of the entire year is. Emmanuel Forbes is getting defensive rookie of the year. This guy has some elite vision. He's going to be tested. He's going to be making some quarterbacks pay for their mistakes. This kid had 6 pick sixes in his college career. And here's the main thing. I feel like they're factoring in supporting play more than they used to in this award. They like those shutdown corners more and more. Well-rounded guys that can deflect passes and just stop big plays from happening. The guys that don't get as much traffic on their side of the field because they're playing well. This guy can do that. He can also bring down the ball carrier, get those tackles when other guys miss, which is going to happen on that team. But he is just a special playmaker. Special teams, interceptions. I like going with cornerbacks on this defensive rookie of the year. Worked last year. I went back and forth between him and Witherspoon. Witherspoon already seems to be battling some injury issues. With this guy's playmaking abilities, I'm going to give it to Emmanuel Forbes. And he's like plus 2,500, I think, right now. So if you got $100, get rich with me.
Crazy that you called me out for defensive rookie of the year on a fourth place team, and then you made your defensive rookie of the year on a team you also
hold on. I said
fourth.
That's crazy that they're going to split offensive and defensive on a fourth place team.
I have them in third, so yours is way more ridiculous. Anyway, let's move to player of the year, offensive player of the year. This one was actually the easiest for me. Justin Jefferson.
Okay,
this guy is nuts. Unfortunately, he plays for that stupid team in purple that they'll probably not ever even win a Super Bowl with him, which is unfortunate because he deserves it. Maybe he'll hop on over to Green Bay and actually try to win one. He's going to put up monster numbers. There's no question about it. This guy's ridiculous. He catches anything even thrown remotely close to him. The only corner that was able to shut him down was Jair Alexander, but that's neither here nor there. I just think Justin Jefferson's, again, top receiver in the NFL right now. He's got this thing wrapped up, and I don't see any running backs I necessarily love to take that away from him.
Oh, I've got one that would love to take it away from him, and it's Christian McCaffrey. Nah. Christian McCaffrey is actually my offensive player of the year. This guy must have been so happy when he arrived in San Francisco, only to be told, hey, you're playing quarterback for us today. This year, he's actually going to be able to learn the playbook before suiting up. He's going to be able to settle into his role as the best dual threat running back in the league. With Shanahan's offense, with Brock Purdy still being young and needing some check down and run support, expect over 2,000 all-purpose yards. He might set a record. I'm saying 2,500 is a possibility here. Not to mention I know. Not to mention all of those tasty touchdowns. It's going to be a good year for CMC as long as he stays healthy, which, again, knocking on anything that resembles wood.
Yeah, that's the big issue with me with McCaffrey is he has to be on the field, which is why I'm not picking him. I am picking a guy who's had some injury issues for defensive player of the year. I'm going to go TJ Watt. I think it's about time for him to stay healthy for a season, and the Steelers are kind of my sleeper team, that team that goes from outside the playoffs to in, and it's going to be a big reason because of that is going to be TJ Watt, just absolutely dominating like he always does. This guy's a freak of nature. I mean, I can't think of a better pass rusher in the last 10 years than what this guy does. He's a better pass rusher than his brother was, although his brother, I think, was better in other areas of the game. TJ Watt's a freak. Yeah, definitely better tight end. He's just a freak of nature, and I think they're coached well enough. Mike Tomlin knows how to run a defense. It's going to help boost his stats a little bit. Not going really any bold prediction here. Give me TJ Watt.
Yeah, I actually have TJ as well here. So I don't think there's a more dynamic playmaker on the defensive side of the ball. Last year, his injuries made him miss a third of the season. He still had a very good defensive year. Other than that, he is consistently leading the league in sacks, tackles for losses, forced fumbles, even has his fair share of interceptions and deflected passes. Yep. So I could see a pick six this year. Flirting with 20 sacks, he'll be number one.
Well, that's a little disappointing. I'm hoping we don't agree on our MVP.
Mine is not a dice roll.
Mine isn't either.
Okay.
Mine is Joe Burrow.
Okay, then we're good.
All right, good. Mine's Joe Burrow. I think this is the year for him to kind of wrestle a lot away from the rest of the AFC. I still, Josh Allen, just too many turnovers. Joe Burrow, man, this guy is, I feel like we still don't talk about him enough for how good he is, and he's got just an endless supply of weapons at his disposal for how many hits he takes for him to just consistently play. I know he had the ACL injury. I know he's missed preseason, but he's been out there in the regular season week in, week out. This guy is a game changer. He knows how to run the system as well. They get better each and every year. I think it's about time for Joe Burrow to take home his first MVP, first of maybe a couple in his career.
Yeah, I love that. I would love to see it happen. That team needs to do something to protect him before I think it can happen. On a scale of 1 to 10, that offensive line is a 1. If it was a 3, I think he could have an MVP season. I really do. I got to give it to Patrick Mahomes. We're going to have another repeat. Patty Mac takes home his 3rd. The Chiefs are just too good of a team. He's going to get all of the wins, all of the stats. He needs to be a clear favorite. He still has Kelsey, who is by far the number 1 tight end in the season. Pacheco improving. Wideouts are satisfactory for someone of Mahomes' caliber. And they got him more offensive line help. I know that voters like to see some variety. I can't see anyone taking the crown from him this year. I really can't.
Absolutely boring, Jacob. I'm disappointed in you for just playing that safe.
Like, at least I took someone out of the top
for
10.
Being safe. Hey, should we go back? Don't forget our MLB when I picked Marcus Stroman, who wasn't even on the list. So I don't want to hear that I don't take shots.
I'm saying Emmanuel Forbes was my Marcus Stroman, and Patrick Mahomes is my Ohtani. Okay, so
all right, let's move into our playoff predictions now. We'll see if we get bold here.
Hold on. I know we don't go over it, but I'm just saying, comeback player of the year, Damar Hamlin. It's the biggest no-brainer. If you've got a couple bucks lying around, do yourself a favor, put it on Damar as comeback player of the year. There's no question about it for me. If he plays half of the year, he's getting it.
Yeah, I think Alex Smith was a no-brainer. This one might even be easier. So yeah, that's an easy one. We don't pick comeback player of the year because, well, I made that abundantly clear why I don't like that last year. But yeah, Damar Hamlin, easy money.
Yeah.
All right, so playoffs. I'm going to start with the NFC. I have the number 7 Lions visiting the number 2 Eagles. I got the Eagles winning that one. I don't like the Lions defense per se, so I think the Eagles are just going to torch them, blow them out, kind of like the Chiefs are going to do on Thursday Night Football. Then I got the number 6 Giants and the number 3 Vikings, a rematch of last year, except this year I've got the Vikings winning it. I think they'll have learned a lot. Hopefully Kirk Cousins won't make some bad mistakes like he did, like throwing the ball behind the first down marker on 4th down with your season on the line. I think the Vikings are going to be better equipped to deal with the Giants this year. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be able to run all over them. And then I've got the 5-seed Seahawks taking on the 4-seed Saints, and I've got the Seahawks in my upset of the wild card round. Kamara will be back by then, but I think Derek Carr, just in big games, he kind of melts under pressure a little bit. So I think he'll have a big turnover or two, and that'll help the Seahawks win that one. So there's my NFC side. I'll go ahead and let you do your NFC before we jump over to the AFC.
So I've got number 2 seed Eagles visiting the Giants visiting Eagles, rather. And Eagles just kind of pounded them. These teams know each other very well. They know each other's weaknesses and strengths, and the Eagles are a much more complete team. So I don't see much else happening there. Then I've got the Cowboys besting the Lions. So that is my upset. Again, I've got the Lions beating the division, Cowboys just sneaking in to the playoffs. And I've got the Cowboys beating the Lions. Again, this is if the Cowboys can stay healthy and actually make it to the playoffs. Then lastly, I've got the Saints hosting the Vikings. We know how that can be. And Vikings actually taking the victory there. I too had the Vikings advancing and knocking out the division winner Saints.
All right, let's go over to the AFC wildcard. I like that Lions pick. That was bold. I respect that. Wild card, I've got in the AFC the 7-seed Steelers at the 2-seed Bengals. I got the Bengals. I think this is where the Steelers' kind of young offense shows some flaws, shows that youth, shows that inexperience. While the Bengals, they've been doing this now for a few years, been playing that high level football in big moments. So I got the Bengals there. I got the 6-seed Chargers taking on the 3-seed Jets. I'm going to go ahead and take the Jets again. I just don't trust the Chargers to do anything in the playoffs, especially with Brandon Staley as their head coach. I cannot stand him as a coach. I thought Mike McCarthy would be the bottom of the barrel. Nope. There was Brandon Staley hiding under the barrel. So I got the Jets winning that one. And then I've got the 5-seed Bills take on the 4-seed Jags. And again, I've got the 5-seed winning in Buffalo. Jags, I think, last year was kind of a fluke coming back against the Chargers. They really didn't deserve to win that game. But hey, the Chargers are the Chargers. The Bills aren't the Chargers. The Bills are going to put up points. I think Buffalo kind of makes that a comfortable win. Kind of sends a message that they're still not to be played with in the AFC.
Okay. I actually have the Jets as the number 2 seed. I know that sounds just insane, but I'm really riding high on the Jets this year. I've got them taking down the Ravens. Ravens just squeaking into a wild card, and I really do think that the Jets are going to surprise a lot of people this year. So I've got them beating the Ravens. Then I've got Bengals besting the Dolphins. I too think that the Bengals are a great team. I really, really hope that they get Joey Cool some help here soon. In the meantime, he's seemingly doing fine without it. So and he's been there before. He's been deep into the playoffs. Tua has not. I feel like that's going to be a pretty comfortable win for the Bengals. And then Jags and Bills. I actually have the Jags beating the Bills. There were I know. There were a handful of games last year where the Bills, it was just shockingly human for a team as good as the Bills to drop. And I think that's going to be one of them. I've got the Jaguars upsetting and beating the Bills there.
Okay. Respect that pick as well. You are getting a little bold in the playoffs. I'm not getting as bold as you anywhere in the playoffs. So I tip my hat to you. I take back the calling out for Patrick Mahomes. The NFC division, I've got the 3-seed Vikings taking on the 2-seed Eagles. I said I wasn't getting too bold. I got the Eagles winning this one. Again, the Vikings I kind of talked about when I picked them to win the division. Their defense, I think, is the biggest hole that they have. The Eagles are a team that can exploit bad defense very, very easily. I think we're starting to see Nick Sirianni might be a very, very good head coach, sneaky good head coach. I got the Eagles getting back to the NFC Championship, where they'll have a rematch with the Niners, who will beat the Seattle Seahawks. When it comes to playoff football, I'm hoping McCaffrey's going to be healthy at this point. Even if the Seahawks are healthy, I think the Niner defense is just too good. They're going to be able to put a lockdown on that 3-headed monster at the receiver position for the Seahawks in Metcalf, Lockett, and Smith and Jigba. The pass rush is also going to be a big issue for the Seahawks. I think the Niners are kind of going to make Geno Smith's life very, very rough. And I just think they know how to beat the Seahawks. They did it last year. Control the football. Do not let the Seahawks offense have very many opportunities. And that's a recipe for success. So I'll have the Eagles and the Niners in the NFC Championship.
Okay. I've actually got the Cowboys beating the Eagles in my 2 and 3 seed. I know, another upset. That's another team, division rivals. They're kind of a crapshoot every single time. And again, if the Cowboys are a fully healthy team at this point in the season, I think that they are going to take the Eagles down. I think that depth aside, starting positions only, looking at the weapons and the defense that the Cowboys have, I've got them over the Eagles there, just barely. And then I've got the 49ers also winning in my scenario. They're playing the Vikings. I don't really think it matters who they're playing at this point. I've got them making it to the championship round. 49ers over Vikings, just kind of a bulldozer of a team.
reminiscent of last year or a couple years ago when the Niners kind of ran over the Vikings as well. AFC divisional round, I've got the 3-seeded Jets taking on the 2-seeded Bengals, and I think this is where the dream first year for Aaron Rodgers with the Jets comes to an end. I got the Bengals winning this one. Again, there's a lot of youth on that Jets team that hasn't been to a game like this, where there's a lot of youth for the Bengals that has been there, has done that, has already played in a Super Bowl. I've got the Bengals winning this one. Of course, Aaron Rodgers seems to have bad luck in the playoffs. I'm not saying he's a choke artist. Look at his playoff stats. That's something I can rant on. That might be a soapbox coming up. Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, still very, very good. It's been defense that lets him down. I think this time it's going to be just Joe Burrow outplays Aaron Rodgers by a little bit, enough to get the win there. And then I've got the 5-seed Bills at the 1-seed Chiefs. I think the week off hurts the Chiefs. I've got the Bills beating the Chiefs. I think the Bills are a team that's capable of springing that win. And the Chiefs, I mean, you take away Travis Kelce, things are going to get a little bit tougher for them. It's hard to take away Travis Kelce, but I think this turns into a shootout. I think the Bills get the ball last is what it really comes down to, and I think they get the job done. That's going to be the game of the year right there. But the Bills beat the Kansas City Chiefs, get to the AFC Championship.
Okay. I have the Jets playing the Bengals as well. I actually have the Jets beating the Bengals. I think this is when Joey Cool's luck runs out. I think that Jets defense is going to be able to lock down some of those receivers if Joe even has enough time to throw to them. And so with that, I know you said Bengals have been there. Jets main head honcho, Aaron Rodgers, has been there as well. So I'm going to give the edge to the Jets making it to the championship round with the Chiefs. That's right. The Chiefs are, they're playing the Jags in mind. So Jags are just happy to be here at this point, and the Chiefs are going to run them over as they should.
I will say the Jags put up a little bit more of a fight against the Chiefs last year in the divisional round than I think anyone expected.
So did the Colts, though.
Yeah, well, the Colts, don't even mention them in the word playoffs in the same breath right now.
I'm just saying, they figured out how to stop the Chiefs a couple of times when they shouldn't have. So
didn't do it in the playoffs, though, so that's where this is coming down. Let's move to the conference championships. First, the NFC, I've got the Eagles at the Niners. I got the Niners getting a little bit of revenge this time. I think last year's game might have gone differently if, Purdy would have stayed healthy.
Was healthy.
If Christian McCaffrey wasn't playing quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, I think things would have looked a little bit different. I think they're going to get some payback this year. I think Jalen Hurts is going to take some shots all throughout this season. I think the Eagles' offensive line is getting a little bit older, might be a little bit not as consistent in protecting him, keeping him upright. And I think the Niners are, again, just the best defense in football still. I got them getting to the Super Bowl, where they will take on the Cincinnati Bengals, who I have beating the Buffalo Bills. Again, I think the Bengals, if you look, they don't really play a lot of high-scoring games, but they have the Bills' number for some reason. They know how to beat Buffalo. I think they do it again here. I think this is a game where you're going to see a heavy dose of Joe Mixon running the ball, especially early, sucking that defense up, and then they can take advantage of that three-headed monster at receiver over the top. And I think that's where Joe Burrow is going to take this game over in the second half. I'm thinking like a 34-24, not too ridiculously high scoring, but the Bengals get the job done. So my Super Bowl matchup will be the San Francisco 49ers and Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay. I would enjoy that Super Bowl. Championship round. I've got the Niners beating the Cowboys. Cowboys have been playing really well. Again, if everyone's healthy, I think this is another scenario of just happy to be here at this point. 49ers is the most complete team in the NFC. I don't think it's going to be too close. I think it's going to be a defensive game for sure with both of those teams, but I've got the 49ers going to the Super Bowl this year. Over in the AFC, I've got Chiefs versus Jets, and I've got the Chiefs taking it. This is where the Jets' really surprising storybook season comes to an end. My Super Bowl, 49ers against Chiefs, two teams that, honestly, I think the two best teams in the NFL facing off against each other. I know we don't see that in the Super Bowl too often this year. That's how my playoffs go out.
Well, I've got a matchup between two teams who haven't won a Super Bowl in this century. Both have gotten there, both have fallen short. So I've got the Cincinnati Bengals winning the Super Bowl this year. Again, they just get better each and every year with that young team. This year's the year they take it over the top, get that Super Bowl. I think Evan McPherson might be the game changer here. Not too often you hear a kicker being the game changer, but man, this kid's got a leg
for you.
And I think that Brock Purdy, when it comes down to can he lead that game-winning drive, I think he can. Can he do it in the Super Bowl? That's where I'm going to go ahead and give the edge to Joe Burrow, because I really believe Joe Burrow can lead that game-winning drive. With the lights shining the brightest, I think it'll be Joey Cool's moment. See him smoking a cigar after the game, just like he was with LSU after he won that natty. I think the Bengals take the Lombardi Trophy back to Cincinnati this year.
Okay. I know I've been riding on the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes getting another MVP. Don't think he's going to get back-to-back Super Bowl MVPs. I'm actually giving this one to the 49ers. So, hey, your team, one of your teams is going to win it either way, apparently. I'm really all about this 49ers team. I know that almost hurts to say from being up in Washington, but that defense is incredible. That offense, you are not able to cover half of that offense on the same play. Can't say enough good things. The Chiefs, don't get me wrong, phenomenal team, still one of the scariest offenses there is. Their defense is getting better than it used to be in years past. Like you said, if you can shut down Kelsey, which is a tall order, but if you can shut down Kelsey, that offense is just par. Most teams, if you shut down their best player, they are subpar. But Chiefs, I think that the 49ers are going to have their number. I hope it's a shootout. I think it would be great. It would be fun either way. But I've got the Niners taking it all this year.
All right, so there it is. Jacob's got the Niners. I've got the Bengals. Shawn's predictions for everything, again, will be in the caption below. He'll probably have something stupid like the Vikings winning the Super Bowl against, I don't know, probably Buffalo or something like that, something ridiculous. That's just my guess, so if that actually happens, I have no idea what his picks are as of recording this. So if that happens, I called it.
I don't think he's going to pick
Shawn can be stupid. But that'll do that. We'll also have in the caption, or we might do it on a separate article, our picks for week one. We're not going to record those for week one. We will start doing that here in week 2 and beyond. We'll also have our lock of the week, which will hopefully go longer than it did last season, where Jacob and I lost week 1, and then Shawn kind of just dominated picks in every facet last year. So we're going to do better this year. I'm making that, you and I, we have to do better. We can't let Shawn, because he also won the family fantasy
do worse,
league
so
as well. Don't say that. We can probably do worse. I believe in us. But we're going to do better. All right. That is going to put a wrap on our NFL predictions. Again, week 1 picks and Shawn's picks will be in the caption below. Shawn's picks definitely will. Week 1 picks might be in a separate post that we also put out there. And I do want to make a note, if you're interested in making your own picks, Eli Sports Network is doing Professor DW's Football Challenge. Make your picks, weekly winner, free entry. You can win $24 a week, all in $2 bills. That wasn't, I have nothing to do with that. So if you have a problem with that, that's on Paul Beatty. But you can check out all the details on that on elisportsnetwork.com. I'll link that in the description below as well. So that is going to put a cap on our NFL prediction special. Jacob, thank you so much for hopping on. It's going to be a great football season. Not so much for Jacob and I, but it's going to be fun watching football over the next few months. So that'll do it for this episode of the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. We'll see you next time.